Good afternoon. This is Mario from the Global Weather News and Trends channel. Today is October 24th, and we're going to be going over the normal websites, the global response alert websites, and other items on here. So one thing I always like to start off is using the rose.hu website. It's very informative. It's a global website that is used by governments, corporations, companies that have assets throughout the world in human resources and employees. And what I like about this, it's real-time disasters that show up on this screen here. You will see basically the tectonic plates throughout the world and earthquakes, real-time earthquakes. And as you can see here, these are the most active earthquakes around, usually around southern Europe, usually on the west coast of North America and South America. And also you see out here New Zealand, you'll see hurricanes going on, and you can see it's kind of active here by the Indian Ocean, several hurricanes out here, or actually tropical storms. But again, useful website, tells you the active volcanoes that are going on, what's erupting. And the nice thing about this, you can put this on your phone and get up-to-date apps. So anything that goes on throughout the world, you get an update. And also talks about avian flu and things like that. And if you scroll down here to the bottom of the page, you will see a listing instead of the graphics. And that the nice thing about this, it will tell you by country and the level of severity on there. So a nice thing to look at. It's as you can see there, it says 2 minutes ago a landslide in Nigeria. So again, something useful. If you have family relatives in certain places, you can actually use this website. Again, very interesting. It talks about fires and even terror attacks down here, epidemic hazards, vehicle accidents, major ones too. So a very interesting website. The next website I like to use is the Pacific Disaster Center. Similar to the other website, but normally these two sites are pretty in sync, but sometimes one has more information than the other. And the nice thing about this, it does list it on here. It'll list earthquakes, wildfires, volcanoes, and things like that. So very interesting website. So if you want to start up your morning, look at what's going on in the world, because sometimes our local news or national news doesn't even talk about this stuff on here. So things to look at. And again, it's also an app, provides real up-to-date information. So interesting if you want to keep tabs on global phenomena. The next site I like to use is the Sunburn Map. And what's interesting about this, have you ever noticed the sun, when you're in the sun gets more intense? I don't know if you watched Mr. B, MM3, his YouTube channel. It's very interesting because he's keeping track of UV rays. And one thing about this, like the other day, I was outside and I put my hand outside and I could feel not the heat. Actually, it's a little different. It's almost like the radiation. And I noticed this for the last couple of years, that when I'm in the sun, it kind of burns. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you notice here, look at the extreme is 11 plus, and right here, the extreme right now is throughout the equator, all engulfing all of Africa, the Middle East, parts of Mexico, mostly all of Australia, and in the United States, you will see half the country is in red and purple, and half the country is in moderate to low, because we're still, we're first 2 weeks in spring, but as you can see here, very intense. It's creeping up. In Texas, eventually it will be 11, but right now in Texas, where I live, it's already at 8 to 10, And just cutting the grass yesterday, at 3 p.m., my back burned. I got home and lay down, and I was like, why am I so burning? And actually, I retained heat, and it's just interesting. It's a good website if you plan, and you can narrow down to certain places where you live, state, country, on here, and it's something to look at. So if you do plan to go out, again, it's a good website to look at here. The other site I like to use is the Vendusky weather. And the nice thing about this here is it's global and it sorts by temperature. I can put my mouse any location, like here, especially in Texas, and basically it's 90, it's still real time 83 degrees, 71 actually. And if I move up here just a little bit, let's say New York, 47, and you can see the extremes of temperature from the United States. Half the country is cold, half the country is hot. And if you look at the Arctic, it is cold. Look how cold it is, negative 24. And they say that it's warming up. The whole Arctic actually at this point is very cold, negative 27. But what stands out, this little piece here above India is 17 degrees, and you look at this little cold spot is around here. And what's going on is the grand solar minimum. If you notice, there's been extreme flooding, hail, tornadoes, droughts, extreme weather, and I'm going to be talking about that at the end of the channel. But you'll notice here the temperature, very extreme heat here, but very cold on here. So you can see things of going on here. And if Texas is already 87 and in just early spring, it's going to be a long, hot summer. But again, you'll see cold patterns. Right now, the Northeast of the United States should be experiencing warm temperatures and still freezing parts of the country there. But again, a lot of changes going on. What I like about this too, if you click on thunderstorms, and there's other things to click on, you will see actually what storms are going out there. And as soon as this gets a little bit harder, and here again, you can see where all the thunderstorm activity is. And as you can see, it's very tense by Australia, where there's a storm out there, and throughout the equator on here, and especially you can see some in Texas. But one thing about this nice Vendusky, you can actually see what's in the future, and it's pretty accurate. If you just pick a date, let's say you have plans the 28th of Wednesday, it will tell you, it will predict what will be out there on here. And bear with my computer, it's a little slow. I'm hoping to get a little faster computer since I've just started my channel. But again, you can see predictions here at a global scale. And you can see as South America, Brazil, very intense rain. Still intense rain by Northwest Australia on here. But it's a good website. Actually, it's a good app too. So it's something to use to look at the wind speed. It's pretty accurate on there. I've used it before. The next site I like to use is called the Watchers. And on a global scale, it's a nice website, because what it does, it gives you information that the news doesn't tell you about, the weather on here. And like here, for example, you'll see here severe dust storms hits Crete. And we look at the picture there, it's very gloomy, but it's just a dust storm. Again, you'll see a lot of weather related items here. Baseball size hail hits Texas. This was the other day, the 19 flooding. So again, it's a good website to look at. There's a lot of things. I mean, I could spend a whole day just going through this website, but get a look at it. To me, it provides good information for you, where the mainstream media does not show that. And the thing I mentioned about the grand solar minimum, this is talked about by Oppenheimer, Diamond. This is talked about by Adapt 2030, their channels. And if you want to get a good understanding of what's affecting the weather, it's basically the sun. And in this article here, I'm not going to read all of it, but basically the sun affects the earth. if the sun is not as active, the Earth gets, I would say, a little agitated, and they say the Earth's still getting colder, but actually, there's a lot of graphs out here that show that we are actually getting colder. And again, very good slides. I like this here, and expect a lot of changes. And you have to remember too that with the weather changing, as you notice, California getting flooding, and Northeast, and the bread belt, Kansas and Oklahoma, Iowa, they're still getting cold. Well, that's going to affect crop prices: wheat, barley, corn. Florida has been cold off and on, so a lot of changes going on. But again, it's a good article. I like to use it. But check out Oppenheimer and Adapt 2030. They talk in depth in their channels quite a bit, and you'll see their channels at the end of my on the index of my channel. But I hope you learned something today. I'm still evolving on creating these channels, but again, the more you understand about the weather, the better you'll be well off for the future on here. But if not, have a good day. Take care.